What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 204 in year 4, getting near that beginning of year 5. And today we have nothing to talk about. I mean, it's another one of those weeks where it's very slow. We have a lot of comics that came out this week, but not anything too crazy. Some interesting talking points. We are going to be covering a possible Snyder Cut show, which is going to be weird. We will have comments. Small Creature Commandos update. But the thing I want to open with is, are we getting the Ayer cut? We've talked about so many times on this podcast that, I'm over the Snyder Cut. I got proved wrong that it could happen, but anything else, I don't give a fuck. I'm done with it. I'm tired of it. But the one thing I always wanted to see was the Ayer cut, because we got totally 2 different trailers when that thing originally came out. And we know it got butchered by editors. So, Clay, there's some commotion on Twitter this week. What do we got going on?
Yeah, so this has gone back as far as, like you said, the second trailer. Yeah. I think everybody who has been a fan of DC movies and has been watching the evolution and the destruction of the franchise of DC saw immediately, hey, that first trailer and this second trailer are 2 very different movies. What's going on? And so we learned several years after or I think even before the release of David's the first theatrical Suicide Squad, that the studio had a commercial studio, a studio that creates or professionalizes in creating commercials, edited the entire movie.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you think about it, that's kind of how the movie kind of played out. It was just a big giant commercial for these, big comic book characters. And for me, it was pretty obvious. Hey, clearly this is going to affect people. People are going to want to see this movie or whatever. And of course, with Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut, people then are like, well, David Ayer also got fucked over. Why don't we see his cut too? And that's what started, hey, release the Ayer cut, blah, blah, blah. Well, we had heard inklings of, or not inklings, we had heard David say, when James first became the co-CEO of DC Studios, was, hey, it'll eventually come out. And again, people were like, yeah, that's a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. Especially when, if that happens, then it's kind of contradicting what James Gunn said anyway, but also not contradicting him, because he also talked about wanting to release Elseworld stories as well. So there's a possibility there. Well, there has been always a big push for David Ayer's cut. There is a small corner of the community that just on the regular releases photos and stills and stuff that David has put out there into the Twitterverse or whatever. And they tried to promote, hey, we need to gather together to get this thing out there. We did it for Snyder Cut. Why don't we do it for David? Yeah. And somebody on August 6th took one of the pictures that David had tweeted and said, not going to call out David by saying this, but you do know this was released back in 2016, right? And it was a picture of Jared Leto's Joker with the tuxedo on.
Yeah.
And David had this to say. He said, what's your advice on how to navigate this situation with grace? There's a genuine curiosity and interest from a lot of people, and I'm aware of there is another group of people that have fun mocking this film. Your comment is a perfect example of how many are magnetically drawn to this discussion, to the 2016 film, in a negative way. Have you ever had an experience in life that didn't until the way you wanted, that dragged you, that made you rethink everything? I have. All I know is my unseen film plays much better than the studio release. The interest in my cut being shown seems real and organic. And Gunn told me it would have its time to be shared. He absolutely deserves to launch his DC universe without more drama about old projects. In a way, I'm chained to this thing. I'm riding a tiger here and navigating the situation the best that I can. Life is a very strange journey. Welcome to my TED Talk. So everybody latched on to the phrasing, Gunn said it would have its time to be shared. Even I did. I was like, hey, but you reminded me, hey, he said this a while back.
Yeah.
I think we and I know a lot of people are going to be like, Clay, are you serious? I think we as a positive community, as positive part of the community, has grown enough to be like, hey, we know there are separate entities as far as universes within the DC universe.
Yeah.
This should come out. We should be able to see it. Especially, again, I haven't mustered the strength to watch it again. But recently, Juice has watched the theatrical cut of the film, and it is the last on the list of your tier list for the DCEU.
It is the worst movie out of the DCEU, and I'm including Wonder Woman 84. Although I am in the small minority where I didn't think Wonder Woman 84 was like as bad as everybody says it is. It's kind of like one of those things where I've actually re-seen Wonder Woman 84. A lot of people saw Birds of Prey for the first time. And they're like, it's bad. We had the same experience, but the second time around, we're like, it's not as bad as we thought, but still, not great. That movie is the worst. It is the worst. It's so bad. The pacing's terrible, and it's just like annoying is kind of what it is. Like the action is cool, but you don't end up really caring for any of the characters. Like it's just, again, it comes down to that thing where I've always said in regards to Batman, people see it, they don't read it, right? I mean, like they don't care. They don't care about the plot. They just care about like, ooh, it's cool. Like, yay, awesome. You know what I mean? It's funny. Like I just saw Oppenheimer yesterday, and I saw this tweet going around where it gives me the idea of how the general audience thinks. So there's this big thing that happens at the 2-hour mark, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, that's where you're just gonna stop watching the movie. But there's like, bro, the last hour of the movie has some very dramatic stuff happening. Like you should be watching that part. And they're like, no, that's not important. And it's like, oh, so you don't give a fuck about story. You just give a fuck about like just visual shit. And that's how a lot of the GA thinks, I think. I think a lot of people don't give a fuck about story. They're just like, oh, I just want to see some cool stuff. And I'm like, okay, well then it as somebody who likes story, I just don't give a fuck about those people's opinions because I'm like, you don't care. As long as I make something cool, something go bing, bang, pow, like you're fine. It's like I don't want to say it's like a child, but that's usually what children like, right? They just like the fancy flashing colors and like, ooh, yay,
Yeah.
See, I feel like people that don't like story probably like hate Bluey. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? They're like, Bluey sucks. Like back in my day, you know what I mean?
Dude, I watch Bluey every single day with my child. Yeah. And it is surprisingly very like there is character in that show. Yeah. And I love it. It's great.
Yeah, it's not like mindlessly like Cocomelon, you know what I mean? Like Cocomelon, like it's not that. And I feel like that's just how I kind of separate people now. But yeah, like I don't know. Like, do you like Cocomelon or do you like Bluey? Let me know. Like, are you an intellectual or what? No, but like in regards, like I just feel like that's how that movie was. Like everybody just liked the cool stuff, and it just tried to play to just that audience, right? Granted, it made a shitload of money, so it's not bad to cater to that audience.
And it won an Academy Award, an Oscar.
Yeah, a lot of people argue against that, but it happened, so it's all you can do. Like, because it went up against somebody like that had really good costume design. Yeah. So, but it is what it is. Anyways, so yeah, I recommend if you guys have not seen that movie in a long time, go watch it because it is horrible in my opinion. But that is just my opinion. People that dropped $700 million over the course of the world would probably argue differently. But yeah, I don't know, man. I want to see David Ayer's vision because that first trailer is so much darker than the movie that we got. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't even get to see the scene where Joker is fighting in the tuxedo. Like, that's the scene I want to see.
Yeah.
And that was the coolest shit. And I don't even think we got to see, like, because there's like this weird hallway scene where people in like big furry suits are like shooting guns and stuff like that. And the Joker's like had half of his face blown off and stuff. And
Yeah.
that's what I want to see. I'm like, how did he get his face blown off? I'm assuming it's after the helicopter crashes and
Yeah.
like he's injured or whatever.
From what David has said throughout the years is that they cut nearly 90% of the Joker scenes from the original cut.
Yeah.
And like I understand there might be some hesitation because I think during that time the Joker may have already started to like be planned, be written and stuff like that. So they're like, because again, the old regime was like, there can't be two Jokers. We can't do this. Like people are gonna get confused, blah blah. So I'm sure the studio was like, hey, we need to cut a majority of this Joker stuff, especially if there's no Batman. Like, you know, that's just how these studio heads think. So I really want.
Well, technically, at the time, there was a Batman. Ben Affleck wasn't off or anything like that.
No. I mean, you only got to see Batman for the one scene of him chasing the Joker and then jumping into the Gotham Bay. But like, it's not like Batman is a majority of this film. So why would Joker be in the majority of this film? You know, I feel like that's how a lot of people probably thought about it, being the studio head and looking at this movie.
Okay, got you.
And so. For me, I think that a lot of people shit on Jared Leto's Joker.
Yeah.
You know, the tattoos and everything.
The growling.
The growl. Yeah, everything. A lot of people just hated his depiction of the Joker before they even saw his performance. They're like, hey, this Joker sucks. And I think we should at least give him the chance to actually show that performance.
Yeah.
You didn't really get to see his performance in the theatrical cut, you know?
Yeah. But then you also have the other side of the coin that think he's the greatest Joker of all time because he had one scene in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah. That scene did not help his case whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just letting people know.
Yeah. So I have always been on team actor Leto because person Leto kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I'm able to separate the artist from the art. But Leto is a fantastic actor. And I think he could have been an amazing Joker. But I think he needs to be reeled in, is what it is. He needs to have direction. And I think Ayer kind of just let him go a little too crazy. And that needed to change. But, you know, it is what it is. I still want to see his full performance. He'll never be the Joker again. So, because from my understanding, James Gunn does not like him. So since they're recasting Batman, they'll recast Joker. There's no reason to keep those two people around. So I don't expect him to be back again. But I'd still like to see his performance to see how it is and how it went. But I don't know, man. Because, like, my thing is, I don't know if Suicide Squad, like the way it went down and got destroyed, is the reason for Ayer's like fall off, because like Fury was so good. Fury was amazing. I don't know if Fury got a nominated for an Academy Award or not, but it was fantastic. And for him to I think Suicide Squad was after that, so we don't get to see his real Suicide Squad. And then he fell off hard with that Will Smith show or movie.
Well, there was the Will Smith movie on Netflix, and then there was also the Shia LaBeouf movie.
Yeah, which I heard horrible things about.
Yeah.
So, which Shia like tattooed his whole body for that film or something like that, which is crazy. Yeah, I don't know how you fell off so hard. Like, I don't know what happened, but like, I wonder if it's one of those things where you saw your creation get just utterly destroyed and you just lost the will to like make good shit because like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Granted, if Netflix gave you a show, you probably were able to do whatever you wanted. So, but I don't know. Pretty crazy stuff. As for will we watch it, or I mean, we'll watch it if it comes out, but will we see it in our lifetime? Essentially, I think you do not see this film. If it is going to happen, you don't see it until the 10-year anniversary. So 2026.
Which that's not very long from now. It's 3 years.
It's not, and it gives you time to start the DCU.
Yeah.
So people will see like, oh, Superman's out, Batman's out.
We'll probably have another Joker at that time.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Hopefully not, but yeah. I think it'll still be a little too early for that. But yeah, I do think that is the earliest. That'll be the perfect time to drop it, right? The 10-year anniversary. Because didn't the Superman movie come out like 20 years after the Reeves one or whatever? Like, or the one that the Donner cut or whatever it was called?
Yeah, the Donner cut came out in 2006, 2007, which I believe Superman came out in 86.
Okay.
So
yeah, 20 years.
Or no, it's 78. That's the whole thing. It's 78. So it'd be 30, the 30-year anniversary, I think it was.
Yeah. I think the 10-year anniversary is good enough. If not, even if you want to, I think 15 is just too long to hold it off for, because he said it's done, right? Like it's ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think you just, I think 10 years be like, yo, David, look, we have to start this universe. We can't start this up again. 10-year anniversary. We'll do it. Like, I think that's cool, right? But I also think you don't release it on like DVD or anything like that unless you know there's going to be a market for it. Maybe you do like a special collector's edition that has to be like pre-ordered, so you don't overproduce them. But I think it goes straight to Max.
Yeah.
I think Ayer just wants it out. I don't think he cares how it's out.
Yeah.
So
I think so too. And I think for the most part, let's remember the Snyder Cut. There's a lot of debate on if it was truly that different story-wise, context-wise, and character development-wise. I think yes, it was, but story-wise, not really.
No.
And I think the same thing will go with the Ayer cut. There will be more character development. There will be story devices that will have you be like, oh, so that's why it all played out the way it was.
Yeah.
And we know that who was the character that turned into freaking the flame monster at the very end of the movie? Diablo. Yeah. Diablo. He survived. That's one of the big things that David Ayer said, like right after the movie had come out theatrically. He's like, oh, in my version, Diablo survived.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think that he'd be able to overpower himself and survive, but yeah, and I think there was also more like a hint of a relationship between Deadshot and Harley Quinn was probably in there, I think. There was also apparently a lot of Harley footage that got cut between her and Joker as well.
Yeah.
Still think that her costume was jack shit in that movie when they showed the OG costume. It just looked like pajamas. Like they could have spent more time on that, but anyways, it is what it is. I've seen cosplayers do a better job. But yeah, so I think if it comes out, 10-year anniversary is the earliest, so 2026, and I'd have it come out at the very end of the year. So like Christmas time, so around there. Because there I don't think, was there Christmas stuff in there? Did it snow, or was it like, I don't remember. Maybe it was raining. I don't remember. I don't think it was Christmas.
I don't think there was a Christmas scene in there.
I think I'm thinking about when Batman goes after what's his name. I think it's in the snow. When he goes after Deadshot.
Oh yeah. There is a scene probably like it's winter time.
Yeah,
it's a cold season, should I say?
So so that's what I would say for that particular thing. Moving on from that. Well, first of all, we don't have this on our list, but it is something we were talking about in the Discord. A lot of stuff coming out about WB. The reason why they cut Turner Classic Movies and stuff was to get bonuses for their executives.
Yeah.
So you can assume that that's probably happening to a lot of studios right now. I think, like, I don't know, man. I don't know what Disney right now is creating an AI team to see what they can do. Sonic the Hedgehog right now is going to film scenes that don't involve people right now. Which is kind of crazy. Now, granted, a lot of people are like, that's fucked up, but I'm like, I don't think they're going to be CGI-ing people. I think they're just creating Sonic's particular spots that they need to CGI.
I think that they'll, because again, this third movie will have Tails, Knuckles, Sonic, It'll probably introduce more characters. Those aren't real creatures, guys.
Yeah.
It's all CGI. But I think in the Discord, I can't remember who posted it, but I think they said that they will be creating AI background characters. I wouldn't put it past them with that. Like main characters, they'll probably want real actors. But as far as like your random civilians on the street in one scene, I could see them attempt, hey, this is going to be our first movie where we're going to put AI in there.
Yeah, that could be true. I could see that. I think it was King that said that, but I don't know. I didn't read that part. I heard that they were going to just shoot film like scenes that don't involve people in them. Because part of that thing said that they were going to be, they were like waiting for the writer strike to be over so they can actually get people in there. You know what I mean? So I don't know if they want to ruin that whole thing, but yeah, not looking too great with all of that stuff. I love how Bob Iger, Disney CEO, did a complete 180, and he's all like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get in there and we're gonna try to figure this out because we got to get it done."
Yeah, and then this morning, somebody posted a screenshot of the stocks that Sony is losing out on with this strike going on. And they are losing 70% of their profit margins with this strike going on. And this person stated, there is no way Sony, who has no streaming network at the time, has any reason to fall in line with the rest of the AMPTP with a 68 to 70 drop in movie revenue. So, you know, they're losing business.
Yeah.
In every way. Like, you had your hit with Spider-Man No Way Home, but you can't just say, hey, every 4 years we'll make $1 billion. That's just not how those businesses work out.
Can studio, like, let's say Sony is there and they're like, you know what? Bring in Fran Drescher, bring in the freaking screenwriters, actors guild, whoever the leaders are, bring them in. What are your demands? Let's negotiate our studio to do work. Can that happen? Like if Sony is just straight up, we support y'all, we'll give into your demands so we can fucking work. Could they do it by themselves? Because if I'm Sony, I fuck over everybody else in Hollywood. I'm like, you know what? Let's talk. And I fuck over every other studio so I become the big dog.
I don't know.
I would do that. I would think of it like a sports team because the NFL and people like that will fuck over people. The Cleveland Browns, everybody hates the Cleveland Browns right now because one, they're the Browns, but they gave, unfortunately, we know this as being from Texas. We know that the quarterback that they have now was involved in some very disrespectful stuff in sexual assault allegations and all that kind of stuff like that. Again, allegations, but there's too many of them. So just going to say that. But they decided to give that guy $235 million guaranteed, fully guaranteed. So even if he gets hurt and his leg falls off, he gets all of that money. So
crazy.
That never happens in sports. And all the other owners are fucking pissed because now all the quarterbacks want that. They're like, oh, that guy got it. I mean, that, like, I'm a good citizen. That guy's not. And he got all that money. I want that. So they essentially fucked over the rest of the league because now quarterbacks are holding out for that type of money.
Yeah.
If I'm Sony, I pull the Cleveland Browns and I fuck over everybody because that means I get to get back to work. I get to start making all the movies. And if writers are like, well, I got an idea. Can I sell it to you? And they're like, sure. Like if Sony can do Oppenheimer, because the directors can work. So what if Sony's like, hey, Christopher Nolan, what's your next film, man? Oh, you need this amount of money? Done.
Yes, but also
I know they have like contracts with other studios, but
they do have contracts with other studios. But recently, I don't know if we talked about this. Zaslav apparently had a lunch with Nolan, and basically was brown nosing him and saying, "Hey, you want to come back? We'll give you any type of money contract you want." So I think Nolan is snooty enough to be like, oh yeah, WB's the studio to be at, and that's where I want to be. Like, I'm pretty sure that's how it's.
He probably is, but I mean, he left once, and he
Yeah.
probably wants to get work on his next project, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm just saying, if he's a free agent, I just go to Sony and I'd be like, hey, man, like, you can do whatever you want to do here. And also, can you just pick somebody to run our superhero division? Like, fuck it.
Mhm.
I don't care. And I would just do that. I don't know, man. I think if I was a studio like that, because Sony's never been a top dog. Never been a top dog. They've made
Yeah.
good films. It's only Spider-Man, really. And they have like a lot of like movies you would never think of that were produced by Sony that were pretty good. But it's Spider-Man. Everybody knows that. And then anime. Like they're
Yeah.
the anime kings. But I think at that point, I think you fuck everybody over. That's what I would do. I would just fuck over the rest of the studios because like A24 has agreed to their demands and they're making movies.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why
Well, I
other
see
corporations couldn't.
for me, I would be very interested if because if Sony is a part of the what's it called, the AMPTP,
Mhm.
like can they just leave the AMPTP and be like, hey, we will give y'all the fair wages that y'all want,
Mhm.
and we're gonna start making indie movies and go on the same
Mm.
line as A24 and all the other studios.
Yeah, see, I guess I really don't know that part of the world.
Yeah, neither do
like,
I. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if they can do that.
yeah, like, I'm curious on how that works exactly. I'm assuming, like, obviously the unions, like, oh, you got to meet these conditions and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, why wouldn't you just want to do things on your own if you have the money? Are they getting better? Like, there's got to be a reason they're there. Is it because maybe it's because they can't get certain actors if they're not? Maybe that's why.
Yeah,
But again, if you branch off and do it on your own, I'm assuming the guild and everybody can work with whoever they want because they're like, oh, our actors are part of our guild. So as long as you follow these rules, you're fine.
yeah,
Unless there's specific things in there like, oh, only the people in this group can work with this group. Which wouldn't make sense to me because I feel like those A24 movies have had some big actors in them before. So, I don't know how that would work. But yeah, like I'm saying, I think if you're a studio and you have that ability, I say fuck Hollywood. If I'm Sony at least, because Sony, that's based out of Japan if I'm not mistaken. They probably want to try to get a bigger market and be one of the top dogs. That's how you do it, man. I would go to some of these directors and be like, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing animation? Like we have some of the greatest animation studios in the world. Do you have a story you would want to tell?" Like, I would love a Nolan animation movie. Like, imagine, like, anime style art. I'm talking about, like, Ufotable, fucking Mappa, but with a Nolan story behind it. Like, an hour well, Nolan would probably be, like, 4 hours. But I'm just saying, like, an hour and a
well,
half,
I
2-hour
mean,
movie.
freaking Zack Snyder did that Owl movie, and it was epic. People love the fuck
Mhm.
out of that movie. So I could see it happening.
Yeah. I had no interest in seeing a movie about owls. I'm like, I didn't watch that movie, but I'm talking about like an anime. Like I'll watch an anime like
Yeah.
that. Animal movies, I feel like I just have no interest in them. Like that stupid dog movie that's coming out. That's rated R.
Oh
Because
yeah,
like, oh, because
that
it's
is
funny
just
because they're
stupid.
dogs.
Yeah.
I don't care about any of that. I feel like those movies were cool when I was young. I'll still watch the fuck out of the oh my god, I'm forgetting. I'm literally blanking their names. The chipmunks that go on adventures.
Oh,
Chippendale.
yeah.
Yeah, I would
Rescue Rangers.
definitely. Yeah, I'd go watch the fuck out of them. I know they came out with a new movie that has a lot of references to a bunch of other shit.
It's on Disney Plus. I saw it. It's weird because for me, whenever I see Chip and Dale, I always
Mhm.
think of the original voice actors for Chip and Dale.
Mm.
But these actors for Chip and Dale is John Mulaney and the dude that does the voice for Sonic. So it's like it's very different,
Do you think with AI now, people, how people mod games? Do you think people will start modding movies? Like
I could see it happening.
you go back and they mod every Batman movie with Kevin Conroy's voice.
I could
Like,
see it.
yeah, because like I think some animation movies would probably get better if
Like
you
I think
substituted.
I think there's people out there who have already done it for animation movies. Like all those
Yeah.
movies that don't have Kevin Conroy's voice,
Mhm.
I'm sure they've thrown his voice in there already.
Yeah. Because I would, if you go back and replace the Chip and Dale, the original voice actors with the new ones and just have them read that dialogue, I think that'd be kind of cool. It'll happen eventually. That's probably going to just be a new market eventually. They're going to be like, they're going to pay for the rights of the person's voice and they'll be like, we're just going to go superimpose it over old
Well,
movies.
they've already done that with some people. James Earl Jones has already signed off his voice to Lucasfilm.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I'll see. I want to see how that gets. I mean, it's super disrespectful to like John Mulaney and them, but fuck them. I'd rather have the originals. Anyways, moving on from AI talk, and that's, I mean, we're nearing October, man. Like
Yeah.
it's August already. We got September, and then we're there when they're supposed to start talking. But I wonder, I don't know, because if we still wait till October, you got 2 months before Superman's supposed to start filming. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Anyways, moving on from that, let's talk about something that is in the works right now that is, going to come out before Superman, and that is Creature Commandos. A small little update for this Creature Commandos stuff. Also, I know David Harbour. He doesn't like to be called Hopper. I just read I mean, he doesn't mind being called Harper. He just doesn't want to be known as Hopper from Stranger Things forever. But he talked about how he didn't know anything about this script and he read it and he said it was one of the best things and he thinks it's hilarious. So everybody keeps saying it's funny. So curious on what that's going to be like.
Yeah, like whenever I saw the art for Creature Commandos, I thought it would be a little bit on like a little bit of a serious tone, but maybe some funny aspects because again, like Weasel is still going to be a character that's in there, and you have some of these wacky characters that are joining together anyway. So I think that it can't be super serious all the time.
Yeah.
I am interested to see how it plays overall, but I hope that it's not too silly,
Yeah.
to take me completely out of it.
I agree. And yeah, so the update, if I'm not mistaken, is that James Gunn has confirmed that it's 7 episodes.
Yes, it's 7 episodes. All the voice recordings for the series has already been completed. Uh, and it was worth noting that because of the strike, everybody
Yeah.
was thinking like, oh, well, because animators don't
Mhm.
have a union at the time, does that mean like the entire production is still going on? And are people, being scabs and all of this stuff? And he's
Yeah.
like, no, chill out. Like the voice, the voiceover stuff was already done with. We're animating it now, whatever. So they are saying this was definitely worth noting due to the ongoing strikes, could have caused a delay in production. But clearly it's not.
Yeah.
There could be a push and delay if there is something wrong with the script, if they're wanting to change anything. There could be a delay with that. But since everything seems to be good to go, I think this is going to be one of the first productions that we can see for this new DC universe. For sure, in the sense
Yeah.
of like not delaying.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious on how it's all going to be. Did you see that writers are eventually like practically fighting with animators right now or VFX artists on Twitter? Did you see that? Because of that guy, the guy that used to do that show, he's like one of the like figures of the strike right now. Adam Ruins Everything, that guy.
Oh yeah.
He came out and said that so it's kind of taken out of context, or he didn't say it clearly enough. But he's pissed that like a lot of animators or like a lot of studios are just sending animations to other countries and then they're just getting it done for really cheap, and that's why movies look like shit nowadays and like all the superhero movies look like shit. He was all VFX used to be something that people were amazed by, but now it's just like the quickest way to do something, and then they just don't give a shit, And so a lot of animators are taking offense to that. And they're like, dude, do you know? And the VFX people are starting to say, like, Do you know how many shitty scripts that we have to fix in post because they're so shitty or whatever? So they're kind of going at each other. Like the animators are really mad, especially with them trying to get a union going right now. They're like, we're tired of this, like, people using us for cannon fodder and shit like that. And yeah, I don't know. I think animators and VFX artists, I don't know if they fall under the same thing, but they should just join together. Because I don't know if that's the same thing. Because VFX is different than animation, in my
Yes,
opinion.
it is, but I do think that there are similarities in the process of creating those things. I think they should. Not like I do think there is a lot of skill for each individual thing. But like I said, there's enough similarities that you could, make a union for VFX and animation.
Yeah. Because the thing I see is like, I could see a like, I don't want to say it's ever positive for studios to back away from something. Like if they're like, oh, y'all got a union, we're not going to use you as much. I think this is one of those rare instances where if a studio did that, it might be for the better because practical effects are way better in a movie, in my opinion. And I think if that forces it to be like, oh, we're only going to pick and choose when we use animation, then animation should be 10 times better. You know what I mean? You would think, because they're not overstressed anymore.
Yeah.
Like Marvel and stuff like that. You think that everything would look better. But unfortunately, that means less work you would assume less work for the animators and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I've always been more of a practical effects person, especially after seeing Oppenheimer, because apparently there's no CGI in that at all.
Well, like when you say that it would probably lose work for animators and VFX artists and stuff like that. One thing that I've noticed with this shift in entertainment is one of the big things. If you look at the animation for cartoons, I think it all started with the Adventure Time.
Yeah.
That type of artistic style took over the market when it came to animation on TV and streaming services, not necessarily movies, but like that's where you got like there was a Thundercats reboot that didn't last very long because people hated the animation for it. Then there was
the Aquaman show,
Rick and Morty. Like it all kind of stems from the same type of animation.
Yeah.
And for me, if you go the practical effects route, then you would then get a wide variety of animation everywhere else.
You would hope.
That's what I would hope. Yes.
Yeah. Because like we could have that wide variety right now, but it's studios don't want to pay.
Yeah. So, and they realized how cheap it was for this one type of animation. They're just like, hey, this is what we want.
And we're seeing the same thing going on in gaming right now, too, is why we're getting a bunch of remakes. Like a remaster is fine. I don't mind a remaster. No, remake. I'm a remake.
I am very ticked off about what happened with Red Dead.
Yeah. Nobody
because
should buy
all
that
the
game.
data mines were like, oh, Red Dead is coming to the PS5. Like, it's going to be amazing. And I'm like, dude, I've never played the original. This is awesome. I will definitely pick it up. And it's a port for the PS4, not even for the PS5.
Yeah.
They didn't even ramp up the effects to be a PS5 port. And I'm just like, you lost me. Like, Rocksteady, what's wrong with you, man?
Well,
like,
it's not even them. Rockstar, yeah. It's not even them, though. That's the thing. They hired the same company that did that awful GTA like collections port that looked like mobile graphics.
Oh,
they hired that same company, so they did the port. My thing is I'm not gonna buy it because $50 is ridiculous for a 10-year-old game.
Yes. I mean, Last of Us says hello, but yes.
But that was a complete remake. If I'm not mistaken, they remade the whole game, didn't they?
For the PS5, yes.
Yes.
But how many additions did they make for the PS3 and PS4 before the PS5 version?
Were they always $50?
Yeah, they were always full price.
My game's really good, though. But no. But I don't think I ever. I think I originally played it as a I don't know, man. It's so long ago.
Because what happened was it was PS3, then it was PS3 greatest hits.
Well, okay, here is Last of Us 10 years old though when it got a port though. That's the thing. Because we're porting a 10-plus-year-old game.
So no. So I believe, audience, please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the original Last of Us was 2013 or 2014.
Oh, so that's not. It's just giving
23.
it to the next generation.
It's going to the next generation. Yes.
Yeah.
But it was a full price game. Now, if you purchased a PS5, one of the big things was if you got PlayStation Plus, you go to the greatest hits section of the PlayStation Plus category, and you can download the PS4 version of Last of Us for free. So they still have that available to anybody and everybody. So you can still play the game. Yeah. I want to eventually get the PS5 version, especially with, I mean, it's delayed now, but season 2 of Last of Us is going to be coming out, you know, eventually. And I still need to play that game. So,
oh, dude, the second fucking game is fantastic. I've heard that they're going to make season 2. I heard they're going to,
or Last of Us 2 into 2 seasons.
There's a lot of story. It's 2 different stories in that one game. That's why.
Yeah.
So, no, I think that's great. I still haven't seen that show. But like that one I don't mind as much as a fucking 10, because I think Red Dead came out on PS3. So like it totally even skipped 4.
Yeah, it was on PS3.
So like I don't think that's worth $50. Get like Last of Us was very fresh, like especially if you bought a new system and you don't want to buy a PS3. I'm like, okay, it's fairly close to the release and it makes sense. It wasn't even on greatest hits yet because it probably was still selling like crazy.
Yeah.
But $50 for a port of a PS3 game is insane to me. I would pay 20, maybe 25, but 20
you know, it gets down to that conversation from back in our day.
Yeah.
And you still see this, but I think there was also like a study on this recently. Like games that came out before the PS3 are harder and harder to find. And that's for every console, not just PlayStation, that on any console.
Yeah.
And so famously, I think you look at games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, you look at the original Final Fantasy 7, you look at all of the original Pokemon games. Those things go for like almost $100, if not more.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of that conversation. Like, is it worth the purchase? And nowadays, with the digital versions of those games, it's like, is it really worth the $50?
Yeah. Well, it also, we live in a world of emulators too, where you can just get it through an emulator. And a lot of people are like, oh, don't do that. I'm like, well, I mean, they're taking advantage of us. So like, why not take advantage of them? I'm all for supporting certain things. But the things that really piss me off are like right now, I've mentioned this on the podcast. I'm really tired of not being able to find the fucking season 6 of The Walking Dead. I have tried to do it the right way and go to every different streaming service. Not there. I literally signed up for AMC Plus. They didn't have their own fucking show, which blows my mind. Seriously? They didn't have season 6 of The Walking Dead. They had season 8, the final season, but they didn't have season 6. And I'm like, this is your fucking show. How do you not have the whole series? Luckily, it was a free trial, so I didn't have to pay for that shit. But I could not find it anywhere. The only thing I could do, if I want to, is go through an illegal channel to find it. And I'm like, dude.
I'm looking at it now. Season 6, episode 1, first time again. I can watch free on Pluto TV.
I think I downloaded Pluto, but it didn't necessarily work. I'd have to check. But
I haven't tried Pluto TV at all. I know that my Roku has it, but I've never even tried it before.
I want to see. I've signed up for a lot of those that say they have it and they don't. Or sometimes even they have like one episode. Netflix doesn't have it at all. Netflix has the original show. not
God
Fear.
damn.
Hulu had Fear. I was
Oh, you mean Fear the Walking Dead? That's
Fear
what
the
I typed
Walking
in.
Dead.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
No, The Walking Dead, you can watch that plenty of places. But I'm talking about Fear. You can't find Fear anywhere. Like, you can buy every episode if you want to do that, but that's stupid.
Oh yeah, it says YouTube TV subscription.
Yeah.
That is not a it has commercials. YouTube
Yeah.
TV has commercials.
I don't mind commercials. That's how I was watching it with Hulu.
It says it's on the Roku channel, AMC, AMC Plus, and you
That's a
said
fucking
that
lie.
they don't have it.
You have
That's
to buy
wild.
them. You have to buy them, which I think is ridiculous. So it's at that point, it's like you are pushing consumers to steal your content. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I also agree, like, with the idea of a show that you cannot find, that's up for grabs. If you don't have it, if you don't have a way for people to access it at all, that people can just pirate that shit. Because like that's up to you. Like this is the one thing that I was really mad, and I hate that Japanese studios do this because they're leaving money on table. Is I was so into Bunny Girl Senpai. Rasco doesn't believe in Bunny Girl Senpai or whatever. I was so into that show. I could not find the fucking movie anywhere to buy. I was like, I want to buy this movie. I want to own it. I want it. Couldn't find it anywhere. And I was like, all right, I had to watch it somewhere. And that's how I had to watch it. That was before it was like on streaming services and stuff like that. But because I think I think Crunchyroll recently got a bunch of movies that they didn't have before.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. But like, it's like, bro, y'all got to put this out there. Like consumers want this. They'll pay for shit, but you can't fuck them over. Like, we spend money on stupid shit. I just spent $60 on a I'm Ken Enough jacket because I wanted it so bad because that shit was great.
Abby put it on the list for Christmas stuff. So I'm hopefully getting it when it's cold.
You might want to look at it now because the last time I checked, they only had one size left.
God damn.
Yeah. So
Jesus.
You might want to check.
Okay,
because I don't know if it's considered a collectible or not because it's sold through the official Mattel creators website.
Oh no.
So the thing is when it comes to jackets and hoodies, like in shirts, I'm a medium, but I don't like how big hoodies are in mediums. So I usually go small. So I bought a small. So if the small doesn't fit, I'm fucked. So I'm just like, damn. Granted, I can only wear that like once in the state we live in. So like
for real, there's gonna be one day where we can wear it, and you're like, okay,
yeah, I'm going out, guys. I gotta show everybody my jacket. But yeah, like I don't know, man. People want to buy shit, so I think it's stupid when studios take advantage of consumers like that. Yeah. So I'd recommend if you're listening to this podcast still, even though there hasn't been much Batman, which this goes out to Batman too. If they make Batman games that are shitty, don't buy them. Like, don't buy them. Yeah. I didn't buy Gotham Knights.
Which is why, I was a sucker. And I was like, I have to at least try it to see if it's good. There was fun aspects. It just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And it's what we're doing with Suicide Squad. Like, and I think that again, it's Rocksteady.
That's Rocksteady.
Okay. Yes. Rocksteady is going to have a rude awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there will definitely still be the people like myself that were suckered into Gotham Knights that are just like, oh, it's a DC game, I have to buy it. There will be plenty of those people. But I do think that there has been such an outrage for this battle pass type of video gaming.
Yeah.
That people are like, we've had enough. And like I said last episode, the creators of Baldur's Gate 3 has said, like, hey, we can evolve the way gaming is. And the studios have said, hey, don't look at that game as the next best thing because it's asking too much of us. That's stupid. I'm sorry. Like, I know people are scared to be the next what was the Project Red game? Cyberpunk. Like, I know studios are afraid to be the next Cyberpunk, but you need to take the risk. If you can show, hey, we're making this cool game, it's going to take 4 years to make, we're not going to rush it, people will be willing to buy that game.
That Baldur's Gate, all I see is just like penis modification and stuff in that
People are
game.
super horny in that game, dude.
Yeah. I don't like. Can you like fuck in that game or what? What's the okay?
Like it's like you can fuck a bear, you can fuck a demon. Like it's
I
it's
don't.
fucking wild.
That is crazy. So that's not a stream game, is it? I guess you could probably do the non-stream aspects or the non-explicit access.
Yeah, like
Stuff.
people stream it, like,
Oh,
but
wow.
I don't know if it's like ass in face type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But like the game is super freaking horny. Like if you've ever seen or people or have the idea of what D&D is,
Yeah.
that's what this game is. Like
Okay. It's
you
very
roll
hard
the
for me to.
dice, it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
It
wow.
has a dice comes up on the screen, you
Mhm.
click it, and it rolls. And it's RNG, it's random number generated. And so
Huh.
any outcome can happen.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd have to check because like you could play games like Conan on Twitch.
Yeah.
I mean, I played Last of Us, and there's a sex scene in Last of Us.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know what like you can't play the spicy games on Twitch. Like I know those are banned. Like I couldn't play House Party if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious on games like that. But the thing is, like fantasy games can lose me very quickly. So I'm just like, you know. So I want to play Elden Ring because the boss battles look so good. I just fucking hate that you have to read so much.
Yeah.
It's like I hate fucking reading in games sometimes. I'm just like, bro, I don't care. Resident Evil, I've never read all those notes you pick up. I pay for it later, but like I'd never read that shit. Anyways, that's enough gaming talk because the last thing we have to talk about is this show that's possibly gonna be about the Snyder Cut, which is called The Franchise. I just heard about this yesterday because you posted it in the Discord. But yeah, what's going on with this?
So it is a show that is going to be it says the series follows chaos behind the scenes of a superhero movie. Himesh Patel and Aya Cash will be the two leads for the series. And immediately after this news came out, there has been a lot of people that are like, HBO,
Mm-hmm.
WB, the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have started to connect the dots. Now, is that initially what this is going to be? We have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of followed what happened.
Yeah.
Because I think anybody and everybody would be, if they made a documentary of the Snyder Cut, if WBD legitimately let people make a documentary and it was a true tell-all of what happened, people would legitimately watch that documentary.
Yeah.
People who hate the Snyder Cut and people who love the Snyder Cut, I think genuinely want to know what the hell happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they can do it without outing some of their own executives and things like that, why not make money off of it? And that's what they're doing here.
Yeah. I don't see this if it is gonna be focusing on the Snyder Cut unless they make the director that is hosting or whoever the director is going to be in this, unless they make him the hero of the show, this is going to go over very badly.
I think so.
Yeah, because the Snyder Cut people, unless it goes very favorably, unless like HBO Max is showing that the executives are the villains in this movie, it's gonna go badly. And I think this seems like the most Hollywood thing ever, though.
Well, and the thing is, I don't know if you followed any of the mess that was The Idol.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was all like, because everybody was like, "Oh, it's just all sex and sex and sex," and I was like, "Let me see." And I checked out one episode. I was like, "This looks boring." So
it is the lowest rated Max TV show ever.
It didn't look great.
It did not do great for all episodes.
Yeah.
They were all, and it wasn't even like people were review bombing it. It had hardly any reviews. It was boring. People didn't like the direction it was going.
Yeah.
It apparently was supposed to be, hey, executives are the bad guys. And it turned into this like sex machine type of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the main creator left, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, yeah. And from what I've heard, it essentially was like kind of very stereotypical Hollywood. Is like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, a man comes in, creates this thing, and hey, it needs more sex, it needs more
Yeah.
nudity, it needs more this. Okay, now we've made gold. And
Yeah.
it turned out to be shit.
Yeah. Nudity can work, but like it's got to be one tasteful and it's got to
Mhm.
actually be a part of the story.
Yeah.
Like there are things like I will always say this. One of the best like nude scenes I've ever seen, Desperado. Selma Hayek, I was like, yo, dude, when I was a kid, I was like, yo, this is great. Like, but it's like a passionate thing between the two characters that have been through some shit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Whereas this is just like, oh, yeah, I'm an executive director. Like, oh, yeah, get naked. Where this is part of the show. You know what I mean? Granted,
Yeah.
that happens in Hollywood, but you got to tell me, you got to show me that this character, she's going to like end up hating this, or, you know, she's going to end up being like, oh, I'm so like, this is ruining my career, you know,
Well,
kind of shit like
apparently
that.
what ended up happening was they made it to where the girl was actually the villain the entire time.
Yeah, I
And
heard about
the
that.
Weeknd was the actual victim
Yeah.
of the show, which did not go over well with a lot of people.
Yeah, I only know about what happened in the show because Moist Critical reviewed it and I'm just talking about how terrible it was. Because the show ends like on episode 7 or something like that, like way before an actual finale should happen. And they just force the finale and then they just like time skip or some shit. And it's just
Oof.
like, what? Yeah, it's like fucking crazy weird. But yeah, no, that is awful. Like you could make a show out of the Snyder drama,
Yeah.
100%. You could make a really good show out of the Snyder drama. My thing is, I just don't think it's going to go over well because I just get the vibe. It's somebody that's at WB that was like, oh, dude, fucking Zack Snyder caused so much drama at this place. What if we made a show about it? And that's how we get back at him. Like, that's the vibe I get. And I'm like, that's the worst
100%.
way to make a show.
It is. And honestly, I think because again, I think that a documentary would work over so much better.
Mm.
But with a show, there's going to be like, even if it's not about the Snyder Cut, you're going to have hundreds of people. Oh, this is about Zack Snyder because this person did this. Oh, and this person is basically Ray Fisher, and he's like, they're making him the villain. Whoa, man, what racist? And like, it's going to be all over Twitter.
Yeah. You know what I would do? I would, for that particular show, I'd ask David Lindelof to write it, and I'd have Zack Snyder direct it.
God damn.
I'd be like, look, we're going to have Lindelof write the scripts. If you like it, you can direct it. And then have him come in. Because then at that point, how can anybody be mad? Because he signed off on it.
Yeah.
You know? That's what I would do. That would never happen unless you backed up the, dump trucks. But yeah, I don't that would be crazy. Lindelof, though, I don't know what he's working on anymore, but like I still think he should do Watchmen again. But he was like, nope, I just walked away from greatness. Like that sucks. I want to see another season of that. Anyways, yeah, so we'll see. I could see the franchise being like that one show, though. That was just with The Weeknd. That I saw this like clip from that when they were like at a pool and they were talking to executives. They're like, "What's Rolling Stone? Is that like an old person magazine?"
Well, no,
and like
that was the response video. Like it was from the episode.
Yeah.
But when initial reviews came out, and the initial review was from Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
So they shared that clip to be like, oh, we knew that people would talk shit about this. And we just know that this is going to be a great show. And it ended up not being a great show.
It was funny though, because like I heard a podcast talking about it and a lot of the internet was like, nobody talks like that. And then on this podcast, it was a group of dudes that live in LA. They're like, everybody in LA talks like that. They were like, if you have ever talked to like an influencer executive guy, they fucking talk like that. And so he was like, so I don't think it's unrealistic. The show just seems like it's acted badly.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. Because acting does, I think there is a lot of dialogue that certain actors can hit and not a lot of other actors can. So yeah, it's all about delivery, right? So it is what it is. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough rambling for us. That's essentially everything we got. We included a bunch of other random stuff that we didn't have on the list to talk about. But we're going to move over to viewer questions now, ladies and gentlemen. And we have 2 in the Discord. The first one comes from King. Since we have the Elseworlds for standalone projects, is there a chance for the Snyderverse to continue? Because I don't think so. I mean, the Ayer cut is technically part of the Snyderverse.
It is part of the Snyderverse. One thing that David Ayer has kind of teased and let us know is that it had a little bit more fluidity with Zack Snyder's Justice League. The idea of parademons and like teasing Darkseid. So technically, if David Ayer's movie does come out, that is continuing in some sort of fashion the Snyderverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I would see from the Snyderverse, because remember, you just can't give that man a budget anymore. Like, it's just, he's so insane. If I was going to have Zack Snyder do one Elseworld movie, I'm like, look, this is what you're going to do. I'm going to give you $100 million, and all you're going to get is I want you to make a Nightmares film. And that's it. It's going to be in that fucking, New Mexico style grading color that you like to use. And then it's going to be fucking, just Batman in this suit, with a trench coat. And it's going to be all practical effects. We're not going to do CGI. We're not going to do anything crazy. You have to do it this way. And you just film it like that. You just go to like some rundown towns and film and shit.
And honestly, a lot of people I think would love, because that Batman suit was the most talked about thing.
Yeah.
When BVS came out. Was like trench coat Batman looks fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Freaking Tom King's run got trench coat Batman. Freaking the toys sold like freaking hotcakes. Like I think it would make a lot of money.
Yeah, you do that, but you just can't give him a big budget. You'd be like, no. If you run out, you're fucked, and that's your film. If we gotta fucking do stick figures for the rest of it, that's on you. Or you just have somebody that's like right there, like just counting the receipts. No, Zach, sorry, that's too much. Can't do that.
Smack on the hand every single time. Nope,
like,
don't do it.
It's insane how he goes over budget. I would hate to see his budget for Netflix. Like, that thing's got to be insane. His Star Wars, like, that's nuts. Moving on from that, Arwit says, thoughts on Reverse Flash being the Snyderverse big bad?
I didn't hear this at all.
I don't know what this is.
I don't know where this is coming from. The idea that Reverse Flash is the one that's manipulating everything to kind of quote unquote go wrong in the Snyderverse. I think that it is it's a very easy answer. In my mind, like, people hated the Snyderverse. Well, it was because it's not supposed to be like that. It's an in-story reason, and the Reverse Flash did it all. I think it's a little too easy to just throw that name out there.
Yeah, it's like the Tom King mentioned. Everybody, when something messes up in a comic, it's Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
So, I haven't heard of that. Granted, I mute everything that is Snyderverse, apparently. Or not apparently, I do. But I mute everything on Twitter. Just FYI, if you guys follow me on Twitter and for some reason you're just like, why am I blocked? I'm like, I block everybody.
You talk about the Snyderverse too much.
It's either that or like I searched your profile for whatever reason and you said the dumbest shit. And I'm just like, I got to block this person. Don't ever take my Twitter seriously when it comes to blocking, because I just block. And I'm like, I don't want to see this. I just block it. Anyways, moving on to the YouTube, we got Moncray. If Batman were made by, what male villain would make most sense for him to hook up with regularly? So it would have to be an anti-hero. He wouldn't hook up with a villain. Harley Quinn, bam.
Yeah,
no, Harley Quinn's a woman, but it would have to be like somebody like a Harley Quinn, I should say. So it can't be Joker, it can't be Two-Face, can't be any of the big bads. It would have to be like Kite Man.
Either Kite Man, or I think it would be Ghostmaker.
That seems too easy because he's already like he wants Batman so bad. But he's also, I guess he's technically an anti-hero because he would kill Deathstroke.
And I think that's the whole reason, like, why there's so many people that want it to happen. because it's just right there,
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, but that's boring
especially with
story-wise.
Chip Zdarsky's The Night story with that guy that is basically Ghostmaker.
I think it is Ghostmaker.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't
That was
remember
such a
either.
horrible
Nobody cares
story.
about that story.
But there was those innuendos with that one issue that was like, hey, if this
He
ever
he
happened,
he did technically make out with Ra's al Ghul. He was just in his daughter's body.
yeah.
So, but that'd be kind of weird too, because then he's banging his son's grandfather. That's just
Oh.
oh, gross, Craig, dude. The situations you're making over here, dude. I'm just gonna go Kite Man, because hell yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really care. Because he wouldn't hook up with villains. Like, it's just not the case. The only reason he hooks up with Catwoman is because he sees the good in her, and she just
Yeah.
steals. He's always like,
Yeah.
I'll just buy it. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that works. Let's see. Eduardo de la Cruz. Remember the time when you tried to shit quietly and ended up shitting your pants in the gym? No. It wasn't yours, Barry. And it was who would win? Dr. Fate versus Dr. Doom, Clayface versus Mystique, Cyborg versus Ultron.
So
Ultron? It's kind of powerful.
Dr. Fate versus Dr. Doom. I think it would be Fate.
Yeah.
Dr. Doom has had a lot of things happen to him in comics. He became a version of Iron Man at one point. He has had the gauntlet before, the Infinity Gauntlet. He has messed with magic before. He has literally done everything under the sun when it comes to comics. But I think Dr. Fate is just so powerful and sometimes omnipotent that I think Dr. Fate would win.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, Mystique can actually use the powers of the people she turns into, right? Or no?
That is one thing that I have not been able to every single time I read a Mystique comic or a comic with Mystique in there, I never see her use those powers. So I couldn't tell you,
For the sake of this battle, we will assume she can't. And if that's the case, I would go Clayface.
I think overall, I think Clayface has the body mass.
Yeah.
If he really wanted to just suffocate her,
yeah. Well, my thing is, if she could use the powers, I would have went Mystique. Because of the people she could take over or become, But for this, if she can't use the powers, I would go Clayface. As for Cyborg versus Ultron, I know very little about both characters. I have an idea of both of them, but I don't know their hardcore histories. I would go Ultron.
Yeah, Ultron,
because he's a big bad.
He is a big bad. And if you go all the way back to the actual Ultron story in comics with Brian Michael Bendis, it was fucking crazy at it was a whole time travel type of story, into the future. It went wild.
It was better than the movie.
It was better than the movie. Ultron took over the fucking world.
Yeah.
And I just don't think Cyborg has that capability.
Yeah.
There was a really cool moment in Metal, I will say, for Cyborg. There was and you called it very cheesy at the moment, but when I read it, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. When he became Cyborg 1000.
Yeah.
He has the capability of becoming really, really powerful with technology. But even, let's say, his evil version, I can't remember his name, but even he can only do so much. He's not a Brother Eye. If you were to do Brother Eye versus Ultron, I think that would be a more fair fight than Cyborg versus Ultron.
Yeah. So yeah, I would go with those. Alexis Barrera says, would you rather see Affleck Bats versus Keaton villains, Bell Bats versus Affleck villains, Keaton Bat versus Bell villains? This is interesting.
This is an interesting question. Yeah. I think for one, Bale Bats versus Affleck villains, Bale would die.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, it just that would happen. I think like in Affleck that versus Keaton villains, I think they would just die in a more brutal way than they did.
Yeah. Although I do feel like Affleck's Batman fits well with like the campy Joker
Mm-hmm.
because Joker should be campy like that at
Yeah.
times. Um, Keaton Bats versus Bale villains. Now the problem with that one is we have a new version of Keaton, and this new version of Keaton can beat the shit out of those villains.
Yeah.
So I think.
But here's the question,
Mhm.
and I've never really thought about this. Think of Heath Ledger
Yeah.
and think of all the Batman. Who would
Mhm.
you see? Who would you like to see Heath Ledger's Joker really go up against?
Affleck probably, but but that's not part of this.
No,
So
the Bale villains aren't against
yeah,
Affleck at all. But in my mind, if that's the case, Keaton's new version is more like Affleck. So I
true,
think
true.
Keaton Batman
Yeah.
versus Heath Ledger Joker would be
Mhm.
really interesting.
Yeah, I'd probably go Keaton Bats versus Bale villains. Yeah, go
Yeah.
with that. Moving on to Jason Todd. What if Superman landed in Themyscira? Are we talking about like baby Superman?
Yeah. So if you guys didn't see the new short that we dropped, it was my
Oh
short
yeah.
on Superman speeding bullets, where Kal-El of Krypton crash landed outside of Gotham and was raised by the Wayne family. Here, what if Superman landed in Themyscira? This is a very interesting take because, I mean, the big thing is like there's no that's man's world and this is Themyscira, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I would be very curious because like the big thing with Wonder Woman
Mhm.
at the end of the New 52 Justice League run,
Yeah.
uh Darkseid's wife, I can't remember her name, was Themysciran,
Mhm.
and she was outcast. But she was there the night that Diana was born, and Diana had a twin brother. We see him a
Mhm.
lot in Rebirth. So there was at one point a child son on Themyscira. So I
Yeah.
do think like they I don't know the full story of Diana's brother, so I need to go
Mhm.
back to see what happened to him if they completely outcasted him at birth. Because if so, then that's probably what would happen with Kal-El.
So if I remember the New 52 run, it was revealed that men are actually born on Themyscira, but they're sent down to like Hades to work on weapons and stuff.
God damn, Superman being one of Hades' henchmen?
Yeah, something like that.
That
Well,
would
they
be
go work
terrifying.
with it's not necessarily Hades, but it's the guy that makes the weapons. Whoever his
Yeah,
name is. He has a very like
I can't
Greekish
remember
name.
his name, but still, like
Yeah.
him being a a soldier of a god, probably
Yeah.
like that would be kind of terrifying.
Yeah, so that would basically happen. But I mean in the new ways, like I mean, you could also say that like if he fell from the sky and they saw it, they would probably think he's a gift from the gods. So, you know, I don't know how
Probably.
that would work. So, pretty crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, depending on what era you're going with, he'd get treated differently. Clay says, what would make the most fans walk out of a Batman? Okay, what would make the most fans walk out of a Batman movie most? Them using Zurin Ra as an ex machina. Catwoman cheats on Bats with Penguin. Batman's arm is ripped off by Croc as shock value. Ace the Bat Hound dies in the field for sad factor. I don't think any of these would. I mean, we have to pick
I,
one, but I don't think anything makes people walk out of the theater.
yeah, I don't think there's a lot that would make people legitimately walk out of a Batman movie.
Batman making out and fucking Joker, they would walk out.
There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
As for these, if we have to pick one, they're not gonna walk out because he gets his arm ripped off. People are gonna be like, "Yeah, whoa, crazy! How does he come back and win?" Like that's what's gonna happen because he's gonna get Luke Skywalker. He's gonna grow another arm because he's Batman. Like that's what's gonna happen.
Piccolo style, just
or he's gonna like use his arm to beat Croc with. Like
oh my
it'll
god,
be something crazy like that. Ace the Bat Hound, I could see people walking out because there are some people that are so sensitive to dogs dying that they would like walk out. Like, I think that's possible. The cheating, like, people are just going to talk shit about Catwoman online after the movie. They're not going to walk out. And Zur and Raw, I would walk out. So, like,
I think a lot of people, like, so I think the Zur and Raw thing would be almost like a M. Night Shyamalan ending. Would people be like, oh my god, like, oh, like people would like their brains would melt right there and be like, oh, that's such genius, like, oh my god. So I think if anything, probably Ace the Bat Hound or Catwoman cheating, because I could see possibly like the people like we know a couple hardcore Batcat fans on Twitter and online. I think that they would just be like, fuck this movie.
I would say they're on equal footing there. Because people have seen dogs die. Like, I mean, James Gunn had some animals die in his movies, so
yeah,
like, you know, it's possible there. But I would go between either of those. Because the thing is, like, Penguin and Catwoman like had that weird relationship. It was never romantic, but he wanted it to be romantic in the original movie, you know?
Yeah, and then Danny DeVito made it actually happen in that villain book.
So, you know, it is what it is. But so yeah, I don't know, either one of those. But the other two I don't think bother people. Last one comes from Nathan. The video game character would make the best Batman villain. Trevor Phillips, Dr. Eggman, Albert Wesker, Reaper, Scorpion. I don't think the last two are in contention, really. I think they're kind of lame. But Albert Wesker, who can create basically zombies and Resident Evil stuff, that's pretty crazy. Dr. Eggman would be very campy and fun, I think. Trevor Phillips is just a normal guy in Gotham. Like, he's not too crazy.
Okay, remind me, who is
Trevor Phillips? Is the hillbilly dude from Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I can see Trevor as just like the annoying guy who always gets captured by Batman.
Yeah.
And Trevor's just like, what are you gonna do, Batman? Again? You're gonna arrest me again? Let's go to prison. Let's go.
Yeah.
I think the best Batman villain, it would have to be Wesker.
Yeah. He just doesn't die.
Thinking about remind me if I get this wrong, because it's been a while since I played a Resident Evil game. It's the T-virus, right? Yeah. Putting the T-virus in DC Comics would be absolutely insane. And having Batman have to deal with that. But also, like, I've seen Wesker and I mean Resident Evil 5. Wesker, the boss battle, insane. Absolutely insane. So I think it would be actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I think Wesker would be definitely the biggest threat out of all of those. But Eggman would be fun. I'm surprised they haven't done a crossover. You know, I think DC needs to do more fun books like that, like just stupid crossovers.
Like, guys, I don't know why they sell so much, but Archie Comics has crossed over with some of the most batshit crazy characters. Archie versus Predator, Archie versus Aliens, Archie versus freaking Punisher. We need to see more of that kind of campy stuff. Like, we've seen DC crossover with Looney Tunes, but pay however much money the partnership needs to be paid for and do some fun stuff like Sonic. Do fun stuff like Power Rangers again. Like, do some of that stuff. I think it would be greatly appreciated.
I think Resident Evil with Batman would be kind of cool. You know, you just take the first game and make it outside of Gotham, and then have Gotham be run over by zombies.
Is there a Resident Evil comic at all?
I'm pretty sure there is. I
It
haven't read it. But...
is there's a Resident Evil manga.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a manga from Tokupop.
Okay. Does the animation look good? Or the illustrations, I should say?
Yeah, from what I'm seeing here, it looks decent. Yeah, so the Justice Buster Batman needs to team up with Resident
Yeah.
Evil manga.
Yeah, perfect segue to go into comic books, ladies and gentlemen. We have 5 books this week, and me and Clay read different books, so we'll cover some of them. So I read, what did I read that you didn't read?
So the ones that I have read, let me just go ahead and name them. I
Yeah.
read Batman Justice Buster, Danger Street, Joker One Operation.
Yeah.
Then I read Night Terrors #3 and World's Finest Teen Titans #2.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I guess I didn't read. I actually read 4, but I skimmed Robin, which we didn't cover Robin necessarily, but that and the only talking point I want to make with this is I hate that there's 2 Robins. We need to fucking get Drake a different name. He needs to, and not Drake, obviously.
No, yeah, seriously.
But he needs to be something else.
I would like for him to go back to Red Robin. Honestly.
Yeah, but like I'm surprised something else hasn't come up for him, to be honest.
It was the discussion that we had years ago. Years ago. Red Wing. That's what it needs to be.
Yeah, I'd be down with that. I mean, he had the wings at one point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that needs to change because like I opened this book thinking it was going to be Damien's book. And I was like, oh, fucking Drake.
Wait, is it Tim Drake's book?
It's Tim Drake's book?
That is so confusing because
exactly
when I think of Night Terrors Robin, I'm immediately thinking Damien because it seems that Damien has a very important role to be playing in this Night Terrors storyline.
Yeah. Also, they're promoting the hell out of World's Finest, and I fucking love this cover.
I love it. I want that as a freaking poster.
It is number 18, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are audio listeners. Oh, obviously, we don't even show our stuff anyway, so all listeners. It's World's Finest, the cover for World's Finest Batman, Superman in number 18. It's a split screen between Batman and Superman suiting up. And I just love the way the Batman has the stitching in the cowl. Looks really awesome.
It looks really, really good.
But yeah, so essentially in this Night Terrors, Drake is kind of going through, like, he's meeting all his brothers, like Red Hood's there, and Red Hood's trying to like help him break out of this, I guess. But I don't know. I didn't read the first one, so there's like a demon Batman chasing Drake. So like, I don't know. I was kind of looking through it, but it also looks like a demon. It might be Drake as Batman. It's kind of what I'm seeing.
Shit. There's also a reference to Identity Crisis here.
Is there?
Yes. That's his dad being killed by Boomerang. The Boomerang.
Okay,
stuck
so
in
that's
his chest.
I thought that was his dad, but I didn't make the connection to Boomerang. So yeah, pretty crazy stuff. Didn't read this. I'd have to go back and read the first one, but I just wanted to make the comment that he needs to not be Robin anymore. So because it's kind of because there's also Red Hood is in this book too, and he's like fighting Red Hoods.
I will say though, this artist, don't know who it is, draws a really good adult like Tim Drake. Because we've been seeing freaking what's his name on the Tim Drake story recently, or not recently, but like early on in that run, that just recently got announced that it's going to be canceled. Oh shoot, who is that? The artist that nobody likes.
Well, they like him for Halloween.
Riley Rosmo,
yeah,
Rosmo. And then seeing him here, he actually looks like he's like in his early 20s, if not like mid 20s. So looks really, really good. I will say that.
Yeah. Also, this is like one of the one times that the Ninja Red Hood suit looks good, drawing wise.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it looks like really shitty, in my opinion. He looks pretty decent here. He looks kind of villainous. But yeah, so I don't know. This story looks good. I mean, a lot of the Nightmares books haven't been bad, besides Catwoman. I mean, Catwoman
And,
wasn't great.
yeah, it was a weird, and I think there's still going to be a continuation of that. I think we're going to get
Yeah,
a Catwoman 2 eventually.
yeah.
But I am kind of collecting all of the Night Terrors one shots or the
Mhm.
side stories to read them after the event.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to give me much context for the actual story, but
Mhm.
just a little bit of insight of like, because I'm sure these night terrors that these characters are having are relative to the stories that are happening in their runs, like whether
Yeah.
it be kind of their struggles or what, you know, what we can look forward to in the future of these characters. So that's why I'm wanting to see if there's anything interesting enough to kind of latch me on to, hey, should I be reading anything else
Yeah.
currently, you know?
So moving on from that book, you read Teen Titans, which I didn't read that one because I did not see it. So, what happened in that book? Because I know
Yeah.
that was when Robin left, right?
Well,
Or no,
he,
that's Justice League. I'm thinking of Justice Society.
yeah,
'Cause- yeah, okay.
in this one, at the very end of issue number 1, uh we had seen how everybody was kind of sharing their identity,
Mhm.
and Batman told Robin no and all of this stuff.
Wait,
uh
that's Terrors?
no,
Okay.
this isn't a Night Terrors book.
Oh,
It
so then yeah, fuck, I missed that story.
So
That story looks good
the
though.
cover
Yeah.
looks like a Night Terrors book because it says World's Finest Teen Titans House of Horrors,
Okay, so yeah, I
which
don't know.
is funny because the House of Horrors is actually mentioned in Night Terrors number 3. So
Yeah.
there's a weird connection to all of this stuff without there actually being a connection.
Okay, so yeah,
Because
I didn't see
again,
this one.
this World's Finest Teen Titans is actually taking place when they're all still young. So it has nothing to do with Night Terrors.
Okay.
But this story follows when we first start. Uh, 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 Donna Troy uh, is talking to and is introducing uh, Bumblebee and Aqualad to uh, what's his name? Mal, I think.
Mhm.
Mal Duncan, who ends up being uh, a character. If you've ever watched Young Justice, he's a character in there as well. Um, but we know that Aqualad and Donna Troy are Garth. They are dating, and so Garth
Wasn't
was kind of
Aqualad gay in the show?
in the show, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Uh, but in here, like they open the door and Mal's just there, so Aqualad's like, "What the fuck?"
Mhm.
Like you open the door to your girlfriend's apartment and you see a dude, you're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
what's going on here?" Uh, Comes to find out, Mal is just a guy that works with charities and stuff, and he's
Mhm.
partnering up with Donna Troy. Donna Troy basically has told Mal like everybody's identity on accident, and she's
Mhm.
just like, "Oh well, I'm sorry." It's weird because Mark Waid kind of makes Donna Troy out to be like new to the man's world type thing, but I've
Mhm.
never even gotten that type of feeling with Donna Troy, even early on in her career. Like
Yeah.
I've never had that type of storytelling with her. So this is a little odd. Um, but uh the Teen Titans get a call that this girl is missing, and they track her down to this house, which ends up being the House of Horrors.
Mhm.
We see Lilith, who is, if anybody knows or recognize her, it's because she is a Titan from Teen Titans Rebirth, or not Teen Titans, but Titans Rebirth. She's a telepath. She couldn't get inside the house because there was just some strong vibes that were really basically melting her brain.
Mhm.
So the rest of the Teen Titans split up. They go and do some investigating to see what happened to this girl, while the other half go inside the house to go search for her. And some weird stuff starts to happen. What eventually we see Donna Troy basically getting she is seeing in this house uh, uh, Queen Hippolyta and some other Themyscirans basically saying, hey, like you chose man's world from us, so you are like outcasted forever. We hate you, type of thing.
Mhm.
While we see Arsenal being, or at this time, Red Arrow being attacked by these shadow-like creatures. We see Garth seeing 100 mirrors and seeing himself differently in every single one. And we find out that this girl is actually a telepath And from her powers growing and growing in power, her telepathy, it started out as her hearing everybody else's thoughts, where it got so out of control that she started projecting her thoughts to everybody else. And so she got scared, she ran away. And Lilith, with all of this investigating going around and having messages being relayed, she's like, wait a minute, all of these things that you guys are going through inside the house, these are her fears being projected onto you guys. Don't believe anything, just go find her. And this really adds up to the way Garth feels with the world, because early on, when we're seeing Donna Troy react to the outside world, we're seeing in the background Garth is kind of like just being isolated. And it's because Garth hasn't really been able to connect with man's world all too well outside of Atlantis. And so he's able to connect with this girl in this house. And he's like, it's okay to be scared sometimes. And it's okay to have this feeling of like, hey, I'm different and everything else. But that's okay. That's ultimately what the story is about. And so Garth decides, hey, I'm going to stick around her town and watch over her and see how her powers develop. And so it looks like Garth is going to be out of the book for a while, but it ends with one of their biggest fans sending them a tweet or a notification or something. And the next issue is Titans Con. And it has on the thing, it says Titans Con, July 3rd through the 5th, Metropolis, buy tickets, panels, cosplays, and a very special guest. So it looks like this person basically invited the Teen Titans without them knowing. So I think it'll be a fun issue.
I'm just confused here because I'm looking through this book since I didn't read it. Why the fuck is Robin cool with everybody again? He left last time, and now, I mean, they're not cool. They have an argument, but why is he even showing up?
Like, yeah, I think that it's just one of those things that's like, hey, you bump heads with your teammates sometimes, but overall you're still teammates. And, you know, at this point, there is somebody that is in danger or is missing in this instance. And that's more important than the squabbles that they have.
Yeah.
Or Mark Waid just completely forgot what he did in the first issue. He's just like, let's just, go with the flow.
That's kind of what I thought, because, like, I mean, it seemed pretty big at the end of that episode where, like, Robin was like, I'm not going to give you my identity. And, like, they're like, oh, we're not going to work together or whatever. And so, like, that just seems kind of weird that they just show up. Also, there is this one, like, goofy moment where I find it weird when heroes get hit in the face by a ball that's not by another hero. And if it's like a kid, I feel like they shouldn't move. It should just go thoink. Like,
yeah.
And I'm just like, why is he so weak that he's getting knocked out by a kid? You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that's pretty funny. Anyways, that's cool. Moving on from that book, let's knock out Danger Street, because I'm not gonna lie to you, Clay. With Danger Street, it was the last book that I read. I was kind of sleepy already, and the only thing I really cared about in this book was the origin of Lady Cop and how it tied to Superman, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. But if you didn't notice also, she has another origin. She is one of the kids at the playground. So we're finding out the origins of these kids that, like, are young, but they're somehow rich and all of this stuff. And I think I'm starting to connect some dots here.
Okay.
So we know that there was some sort of plan devised to get the kids out of the dingbats out of the jail cells. And seemingly it has worked. Their plan worked. They were able to get these kids and the two individuals out of the jail cells. While Lady Cop and the Creeper, Jack Ryder, right?
I think so.
Are having dinner, and they're supposedly supposed to be talking about what Lady Cop is having issues with and her whole dilemma. And their dinner kind of goes south when she convinces Jack Ryder to drink some wine. He cannot hold his liquor, clearly, from this issue. But while all of this is going on, we're also getting the backstory to these kids that we've been seeing.
Mhm.
I can't remember their like group name or whatever, but they're the kids that all wear like the green suits or whatever.
Yeah.
We're learning that one day when they were in school, they played this game where on the blacktop, and that just reminded me of like I haven't heard the term blacktop in forever. And
Mhm.
so when I read that, I was like, wow. But when they were kids in school, the blacktop was so eroded that the blacktop had grass growing in some of these cracks. And
Yeah.
they made up a game. Hey, you have to jump on the cracks that have grass. And if you miss or you fall or whatever, you're out. Like you're on the
Mhm.
losing team at that point. And the story goes that and you look at these kids and you're like, hey, these kids are kind of recognizable.
Yeah.
And at one point, we finally see this little girl with a pink dress, long hair, and it's her. It's
Mhm.
Lady Cop. And we come to find out that there is this man, you cannot see his face, so you can only see this giant smile.
Mhm.
But he has the Fate helmet, and he promises them, "Hey, you play the game.
Mhm.
The winners will be granted one wish, and the losers will be granted a nightmare."
Mhm.
And I think these kids were given immortality
Okay.
as children.
The dingbats.
No, not the dingbats, because it's not them. It's the kids that are rich.
Oh, I got you. I got you.
Yeah, those kids.
Okay.
And Lady Cop was a part of the losing team. We don't know any of the other kids
Mhm.
on the losing team. I don't think. But I think Lady Cop was a part of that losing team, and her nightmare was the moment at the sorority house.
Oh, damn. The one issue I should have really paid attention to.
Yeah,
I feel like I just fucking glossed over. I was so tired at this point. It's like 2 in the morning.
because we do get like, because we had learned about this
Yeah.
very early in this series, and then I had done some research because we hadn't heard anything about Lady Cop before, and we're like, Tom King is really working with, you know, characters that are long forgotten. And we
Yeah.
had learned like she became a cop because of an incident that happened at her sorority.
Yeah.
Well, there's a very scary incident or scene here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels, and it's just like you see kind of outside of her bed, and it gets closer and closer and closer. And she explains to Jack Ryder, well, there's this thing that happened to me before.
Mhm.
And she talks very vividly about, you know, this random guy that comes in with a knife and starts killing all of her sorority sisters. And she's watching it from under her bed.
Mhm.
And he eventually drops a card with, I can't remember what it was. Let me see
Uh,
here. A playing card, the ace of spades,
oh, yeah.
just before he left. He dropped it and he picked it up. And while all of this was happening, she was whispering Superman's name. And
Mhm.
she's like, he's supposed to hear everything, right? Super hearing. Why didn't he come and save me?
Mhm.
And I think it's because this was fate, you know, to
Yeah.
play on words. And this nightmare was because of the game that she lost as a kid.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I wish I would have paid more attention because yeah, that sounds pretty insane now that I'm looking through it. Because yeah, it was like 2 in the morning. I was like, yo, I was like, there's a lot of words in this book. I was like, I'm kind of sleepy. I had already read 4 books before this, so I just wasn't paying attention. And I've already kind of said that I want to reread this book in the trade when it's like fully collected, so I can fully
Yeah.
understand it. Because this is the one time that I feel like I haven't kept up with it like monthly just
Mhm.
because I know nothing about these characters.
Yeah.
And so it's like in Mr. Miracle and stuff like that, like Batman would show up and I'd be like, oh, cool. Or you'd see stuff like that. But this is just nobody. And I'm just like,
It's
oh,
been a
stuff.
little harder to follow because of the lack of recognizable characters.
Yeah. I mean, Darkseid's there and stuff, but like he's not in it a
Yeah.
lot.
Jack Ryder also tells the story about this diamond statue, which we also see
Mhm.
in this book where the codename assassin basically manipulates the statue to turn into a diamond sword, and then one of these rich kids was able to get the warlord sword,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like there's going to be a fight to the death near the end of this story.
Yeah.
I feel like is going to really happen. But it's
Probably the assassins against each other.
yeah, it's going to be pretty wild. I'm interested to see now. But just realizing that Lady Cop genuinely just tripped, because that's what ends up happening. If you read the pages of when she was trying to play the game,
Yeah,
she just had bad footing, and because of that, she got to witness an entire sorority get murdered.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I'm curious, if the kids got immortality, why are they dying now? You know?
That's true.
I wonder if it's like they wish to be kids forever, but they're slightly older than they were when they were kids. So,
yeah.
But I also don't think kids ever want to be kids forever until you get older and you appreciate that you were a child.
Yeah.
So I don't think they would wish for that. They'd be like, I wish to be an adult.
Again, we don't know the wishes at all, or the nightmares at all. It just says, I will, one will be granted a wish and one will be granted a nightmare. And I'm just connecting dots. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like they very purposely brought attention to this woman, to this little girl. She has blonde hair, and like I was just like, it's got to be Lady Cop as a kid.
Yeah.
And then talking about nightmares, what's more nightmarish than watching an entire sorority get murdered?
Yeah, no, that was pretty crazy. That's the one thing that, like, as I was going through, just kind of flipping through it, I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I saw this panel on Twitter. People were talking about it. I was like, let me read this story. So like, I was definitely paying attention to that part for sure. But yeah, I was just hella tired, man. But moving on from that, do we want to end with the two mangas or do we want to end with Night Terrors?
Let's end with Night Terrors. I think we've been enjoying that one a little bit more.
Yeah.
You had skipped out on the last chapter of Joker, but thankfully Batman is just the very next chapter that that goes along with the story. So which one do you want to go with now?
Let's knock out Joker first, because there's not really a lot to that book. It's basically, it's just Joker experiencing the trials of motherhood and fatherhood
of parenthood.
Yeah.
And again, I think I can relate to this the most because it's literally happening to me right now. And because essentially we could wrap this up in one sentence, honestly. And that's basically it. The trials of parenthood. We talked about how he was trying to get baby Bruce Wayne, Batman, to take a nap or go to sleep in the last chapter. This one, he is finally napping, and one of Joker's henchmen comes to his house, and Joker tells him the whole story, and this guy is telling Joker like, oh, it's hard right now, but just wait until they're older. It's gonna be great. Blah blah. That is the worst thing you can tell a parent.
Yeah.
Like, and he even knows it at the near the end of this book. He's like, oh no, I did the cardinal sin as a veteran parent talking to a new parent. I should have never given you that type of advice.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Abby and I got so much advice when Amberlynn was so little. We would come home and be like, those are a bunch of assholes. Do they not think we know all of this stuff already? We know. It's just we're in the thick of it right now. It sucks. But it's so true. And that's why I'm really having a good laugh at this. And it's almost to the point of like, is this book really going to be for any type of Batman fan? Is this book going to be for every Joker fan? Because I don't think the humor is there for everybody,
No, I can understand it, like, totally. I wasn't necessarily, I'm not a parent myself, but I was around here and there for my niece. So I kind of get it, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's for everybody. But again, manga's not for everybody. You want to know one of the hit animes right now that's being promoted? It's an anime about a vending machine. Like one
What?
of the main characters is a vending machine.
I do not know this.
Yeah,
What?
it's an isekai. Of course it is. It's an isekai. Yeah, it is a something. I don't know what the name of it's called, but Crunchyroll's promoting it right now, and it's like the main character is a vending machine. And I followed this guy named Giguk who covers anime, and he was like, I thought this was gonna be the stupidest anime ever. He's like, it's actually quite good, and like, it's just a show about a vending machine.
Reborn as a vending machine. I
Yeah.
now wonder the dungeon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you can make anything an anime, and that's what I love about anime. Like, and same thing with it comes to like, you know, if you're reading like fucking hentai or stuff. I was watching this article, right? Oh, so by the way, just side note, because you know on Twitter, like we would follow some people that are like, oh yeah, Japan ignores all of anybody that wants to get into anime that's from America or whatever, right? Like, you know, there's like that, like everybody's like, I'm gonna be a mangaka even if I'm from another country. That's kind of bullshit, to be honest. Because I was reading, there's this really popular hentai that's it's I don't want to say it's popular, it's infamous. It's called Metamorphosis, because apparently it's like really depressing, and that's not what you think of when you come to like Ero manga and stuff like that. And well, it's by this guy named Shodo L. And I learned watching the Trash Taste podcast, he's from America. And he's like extremely popular because apparently he was born and raised in New York. He was drawing his whole life. His first hentai was a Planet of the Apes hentai. He was just like, yeah, I want to turn that into a hentai. Then he fucking decided to go to Japan, and somebody in Japan was like, you're really good. You want to work on something? And that's how he became a fucking in manga. Yeah.
Wow.
So like, you just got to be good. Like this whole idea. Now, granted, I do know there are a lot of people in Japan that are very against foreign like work. I know that is a thing.
Huh.
But because I'm working on something at my job right now where we're trying to get like artists and stuff. And I've seen a lot of Japanese artists I would love to work with, but a lot of them don't want to work with foreign people because you don't know the language. And so they don't want the language barrier. And so that's probably why I would say it's just the language issue. But this particular guy working in hentai, and they're like, hey, man, you can do some really good stuff. You want to work for us? And he started doing shit. So, like,
it's awesome.
You know, like if you're good enough, you're good enough. And that's what I've always said, you know, like you don't need college, but you're going to go down a harder path.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I just thought that was interesting because like I constantly see that on TikTok or Twitter or whatever, where people are like, oh yeah, they just don't like him. Like, this guy just said fuck you and is like one of the biggest like hentai artists. Like, what the hell? So I thought that was pretty interesting. But again, just it's not for everybody, right? Like manga is, I think manga is for everybody, but not every manga is for everybody, if that makes sense. Whereas comics, I feel like it's so much harder to make a silly comic in America. Because I feel like America is very serious at times, or like doesn't do silly very well. Like people will read Deadpool and Harley Quinn, and like that's as silly as that gets. It feels like for me.
True, but there is also I will say this: there are some comics out there that are quite possibly like unintentionally funny that are great. Okay. And then there's oh shoot, who is that? I can't remember the team's name. There's 4 kids in Marvel, and they have like the powers of the elements or whatever. And I can't remember what their name is, the team name. But there was recently in the last 3 years or so a book where they lost their powers and they had to team up with Wolverine. And it was actually a really silly, a really fun, like family-friendly story.
Yeah.
And that is great. So there are random like needle in the haystack type of stories there.
Yeah.
But I will agree with you. It's hard to find in America.
Yeah, because I think there's probably like Archie and Scooby-Doo and stuff, right? Like, but those are like legacy books. Like people are gonna buy those books because of the brand name. But I don't think you like the way Japan greenlights a lot of like a story about a fucking vending machine. I don't think that gets greenlit in America. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? I don't think, freaking, oh my God, Image is going to be like, oh yeah, let's do a story about a vending machine and we'll publish that. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like it's a lot harder around here. You have to have something that like, oh no, American audiences are going to like this, or we can market that. You know what I mean? And where in Japan, it just seems like, fuck it. You're going to give you a shot. If it fails after 10 weeks, you're fucked. Like you're done. And maybe that's what, we wish America would do more. You could probably get more creative freedom. But, from what I'm seeing when it comes to, like I follow Babs Tarr on Twitter, and recently she's been retweeting a lot of people complaining that like, it's not the writer's fault. Like apparently editors or producers have read amazing stories, but it's big companies that don't want to produce those stories. Like they're like, no, we don't want to do that. So it comes down to, the DCs, the Marvels of the world not producing this kind of content. And so maybe it's there, but maybe that's why a lot of people are starting to go towards manga, because manga is just like, I can find anything I want there, the stupidest things. And it's fun to read. Like I don't take manga seriously. And that's why I think I love about it. But then there's sometimes I'll read a story and I'm like, God damn, that was great. So, I think kind of DC and Marvel need to kind of jump on that train. But moving on from that, let's dive into Justice Buster. This is number 2 in this Batman story. This one is not weekly, or not every other week or something like that. It feels like it takes longer to do this one. Yeah. But this one feels like a Batman book.
Yes.
And I really enjoy this. It basically this whole story is very short. It's dealing with Penguin in this one, and he's lost his money. And he's like, who the fuck took my money? Where's my money? And this guy's like, well, Mr. Penguin, we don't really know where your money's at. And he's all like, well, we're going to find it. And then he was like, you know what? Is it the Batman? They're like, no, Batman would never do that. He would come directly and take your money. And right when he says it, he's like, oh, like right now. And then Batman breaks through a window or whatever, or he just shows up behind this guy. And he's all like, Penguin, what are you doing? Where's your money? Like, and he's all like, I don't know where my money is. You can help me find it? Like, And so it's kind of like this weird little team up. Like, is this team up going to happen? Like, he's like, if you want to help me find my money, who's doing this? Like, we can work this out. And Batman's all like, nah. And he's like, I got a prize for you.
I like how, like, Batman's going to look into it.
Yeah.
But Batman's like, actually, I left a surprise. I have a surprise for you. Yeah. And it's Gordon and the rest of the GCPD outside of the building, like, there to arrest Penguin.
Yeah.
Like, that's just wild.
Yeah, I also like I'm kind of like love and hate the mech suit a little bit. Like I miss the cape, but it also kind of looks cool without a cape.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, oh man, I don't know. I miss the cape. It's like that's classic Batman. Love the way they showed him imagining his parents getting killed. Love the drawings, the no faces.
Yeah, the no faces, very like. This is legitimately just like a flashback scene.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, hey, we're gonna tell you in real time. Like here's all the dialogue, the dramatization of it all. No, it's just boom, boom, boom. This is stuff that Batman thinks about all the time. Type of stuff.
Love that. And then essentially it's more of a sorry, I got the yawns there. It's essentially him talking more about the Robin situation, right? Like he's like, I trained Robin to do this and yada yada, and again, Alfred is just like, you want him to do what now? Like you want him to learn more like a normal person or something like that. And Batman's like, yeah, I need a partner in the field. Like I need something, and that's essentially it. He's like, I'm creating this Robin situation to be better. Then we teleport, essentially, not teleport, but we switch over to Metropolis. And it looks like Bruce Wayne is about to meet with somebody in Metropolis named Clark Kent at the Daily Planet.
Yeah, I was not expecting this.
Yeah.
When we see Metropolis, I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's just got to be some convenient thing. Maybe Lex Luthor. Like, I could understand Lex Luthor because billionaires, money laundering, all of that jazz. I could see it happening. But when you see, like, as soon as he starts to sit down in front of somebody, I'm like, that's motherfucking Clark Kent. Like, it's gotta be. And it is. This could be the introduction to what could be a Justice League.
Yeah, or it could also be the introduction to the Superman book that they're making too. I don't know if they're connected in any way, but Yeah, it's a possibility there. But yeah, I think that's kind of cool. I wish all these books would connect somehow. Because you're telling the Joker from a very well, I mean, Batman is a kid there, so that would have to be a different era.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's very interesting. But I do want to see all these characters cross paths in a manga form. But I love how fast they are. Like they're fast reads, which I kind of enjoy. Which some people complain about manga sometimes that it is too fast. I was at Barnes and Noble one time looking for something to buy, and this family came in, and this daughter was like super happy, like looking through all the books. And the mom was like, I hate buying these because you read them so fast and then they just sit there. And I'm like, but as a writer, I'm like, yeah, but they sit there for reference. I go back and I look through them and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do that. But again, not everybody wants to be a writer. They just enjoy it. And then I guess maybe it does sit there. But there's also people that will read a book like 30 times. And I'm just like, how do you do that? Like, I could read a book a lot, but
honestly, like for me,
mm-hmm.
I have all of these, and for you, you have these bookshelves. Yes, they're for reference. For me, I've always kind of intended to have kids. Like, these will be passed down eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there's going to be a time where I'm like, I really want to read that book again.
Yeah.
Or again, reference. Hey, what happened in that one manga that, when this happened and this happened,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll go search for it. Like, their books do get picked up again.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
Like, there's always an itch. Same thing for video games. Like,
Mm-hmm.
recently, I've been seeing a whole bunch of Red Dead 2 on my TikTok, and I'm like, God damn, I think I might want to restart the story and play it again.
I have been playing Friday every day. The game Friday. It's not even going to be updated. It's not, but they're shutting the servers down next year. So like, I've been playing the game, and it's such a simple fucking game. And you do the same thing every game. It's just fun running away from Jason. Like, it's just funny. Like, and you get killed sometimes. And sometimes I'm like dancing on him. I'm like, what's up, bitch? What's up? You ain't gonna kill me. And then I get away because they suck, but it's just fun to do. But yeah, I don't know. I do think, the passing down thing, obviously I'm not a parent, so I don't really ever think about that. Also, I have some books that should not be passed down.
That is very true.
They should not be passed out. But yeah, I do think that that is a cool thing. But I just love how fast it is to read, especially, when we have a bunch of books to cover. It's nice when I'm like, oh, the manga books are out. Like, I can just flip through this really quickly and read it. But so I'm enjoying that story a lot. It is probably, I haven't read the Superman one, but out of the three, minus reading that one, I would say that is probably my favorite so far. But I do intend to read the Superman one. But anyways, move on to the last book we got, and that is Night Terrors number 3. This book opens up with Boston Brand basically doing like Shakespeare on a play on top of a stage, and then it like quickly transitions to Batman and Sandman fighting the villains, or like I like to call them the Stranger Things looking monsters that, what are they called? The Knights of Terror.
Yeah.
Or whatever. They're fighting all of them, and they get saved by Robin, which I think is really cool. He comes in with the sword, slices them in half and stuff like that. And Boston's like, oh, I've never been so happy to see Robin before, And Robin's just beating all their asses. And they're like, yo, I got a ride. Let's go. And they get zapped up into, the Batwing. And Robin threatens Boston like immediately. He's like, get out of my dad.
He's like, get out of my dad, you demon.
Yeah.
And Boston gets out. He's like, oh, Boston Brand, I should have known. He's like, wait, you could see me? He's like, yeah, I've had a lot of experience with death.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, Damian's died before.
So the moment I read that, I'm like, so does this mean anybody that's died can see Boston? Because that's what I'm curious about. Because that would mean Batman's never officially died.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I like that because I've read a lot of Batman death stories, and he doesn't feel like he's technically died. It's just like he gets teleported to another world or another dimension and all this, and everybody just thinks he dies.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I think that would be kind of a cool thing, that if you've died and come back, you can see the dead. Like, because that makes Boston a little bit more interesting character, because he doesn't always have to he can actually interact with a Damian. He can interact with a Batman if Batman did technically die or whatever. Like, anybody that's died should be able to see the dead. because like you shouldn't have come back. Like it should have been a permanent thing, but for some
Mhm.
reason you're back and now you have to see this extra part of the world. Like I think that's kind of cool. But for whatever reason, Damien has this magical power now that he can see the dead. And we get this really intense memory from Insomnia where we still don't know what the Justice League did to him, from my understanding, right? I'm assuming they probably accidentally killed his family or something happened that he hates them. But he hates the Justice League and he's like, I can't sleep. Every time I go to sleep, I see them, and I can't deal with it. And they're like, oh, well, the Justice League, you're going to have to work through it. And maybe one day you can forgive them. And he's like, forgive them. And he smashes a coffee cup over this guy's head because they're in like an AA meeting kind of, but AA for like insomnia, I guess. And he's like, no, you're all going to see. And he just starts killing everybody in this meeting. And then he cuts his eyelids off.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm never going to sleep again. And I'm just like, God damn.
It is crazy because the panel, it looks like he's looking right at the audience reading this. And he says, I wouldn't go further into my memories, Dead Man. You won't like what you see. And that's when Dead Man wakes up. He's like, oh, shit.
Yeah. And so I think that the storytelling here, I think, is really good. Like, I love the way they're telling the story. And then, Boston kind of tells him what's going on. And that's when we find out about the not asleep, not awake world, essentially, the in-between.
Yeah, they call it the reality stream.
Yeah. So Sandman, his family or whatever, made this compound that lets you kind of live in that world. And so he's like, yeah, well, let's go test this out because they found out that Insomnia cannot find the Nightmare Stone in the real world and nobody can find it in the nightmare world. Yeah. So it's got to be in between. So that's where they go. We see a Batman that is also Deadman costume, which I think is pretty interesting, with also a Robin. They get teleported to this other dimension, and they're just kind of like in this weird world, and they end up going to, again, the House of Horror.
Yeah.
Also, there's like this weird Dune kind of moment, I feel like, when they're all in sand, but it looks like, Robin's fading and Batman's fading into the sand, which I think is kind of cool. I mean, I just throw Dune out there because it's a sand world, but it's not necessarily a reference. But yeah, we go to the House of Horror, and while they're getting there, we know Sandman is fighting one of the Knights of Terror in the real world. Yeah. Because he shows up to try to destroy the whole thing. And we find out that Boston Brand kind of reveals, he's like, yeah, so I tell everybody that I was dead before I hit the ground, but I was actually like writhing in pain. Like I felt everything when I was dying. And I don't remember them saying that there needs to be a sacrifice or something to get the Nightmare Stone, but he ends up tearing his body apart and finds the Nightmare Stone inside of him. From the depiction that I read, it looks like that's how.
Yeah, like the way he explains it is, Damien asked him, "Why is the Nightmare Stone showing us this?" And that's when Deadman says, "It's a test." Just when Weasley Dodds stopped that cult leader in his time, to possess the Nightmare Stone, it takes a sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And that's when he is basically ripping himself apart. Yeah. And he finds the Nightmare Stone inside of this depiction of Deadman. And we see in the real world Batman with the Nightmare Stone. And he says, we have the Nightmare Stone. We can use it to stop insomnia. And tell me what you get from this last panel. It says, and my dreams will come true. And we see Batman with the Nightmare Stone kind of in his eyes. And then we see a smile. Yeah. Are they trying to say this is insomnia?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like Batman. So like, was it a trick?
And it's very confusing because at the end of Batman 2, the Nightmare's Terror 2, Batman woke up. Or he thought he woke up.
Yeah.
And then we saw like a tattered Damien.
Yeah.
So like is 3 and 4 of Night Terrors before Batman 2? Like
seems like that. Because Damien hasn't got his ass kicked yet.
Yeah.
So weird way to tell a story, I think. Mm-hmm. I understand the offshoots, right? Because everybody's gonna want to buy one thing. Just number them 1 through 20. one through whatever, and just buy the one you want to buy if you want to miss it.
Like,
you know?
like honestly, what they should do is, yeah, you can put the Nightmares Terror Superman #1 there, but underneath it, say 3 of 20 or 5 of 20, so that way people know the actual reading order instead of having to look back at the end of every single issue and look at the list. Like, help some people out here.
I think we'd have to go back and check this because I don't think it's necessarily true. I think it's just a release order, but they have those 1-page ads that have like when they come
that's
out.
what I mean. It's usually at the end of every single issue.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is I don't think that's necessarily the reading order. That's the release order, isn't it?
Oh, true. Yeah,
you
it
know,
is the release order.
We need the reading order. And I wish they would do that because it would just be more interesting. Because I don't even know if, like, when they put it in the omnibuses and all that, do they put it in order? I haven't read an omnibus in so long.
They usually put everything in order, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's necessarily release order back then, you know? We would have to really test it with stories like this.
Yeah. Either way, I think Night Terrors has been easily one of the best events in the last few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, You're the Villain, garbage, in my opinion. Death Metal 2, garbage. What was before this? The big thing where every page ended with a collage of villains at the end of it.
Oh, it was
I remember what that was called.
Shit, I forgot what it was called.
Because it wasn't called Dawn of DC.
It was the crisis event. It was the Dark Crisis. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah. That one it looked great. I don't remember. I just remember the story always ending the same.
Yeah.
It literally always ended with a collage of villains or heroes at the very end. But overall, this one story-wise is easily the best book or the best event in the last few years for sure. Because it's readable. Like, I actually care to read it. And I even care to read the side stories, which is very rare. But overall, pretty good stuff. They have been promoting in all of these books, they've been promoting the hell out of the Batcat War that is coming. And Blue Beetle. I don't know if you saw that article that the Blue Beetle is trending upwards now.
Yeah, so instead of 10 to 15 million, it looks like 30 million. So it's double the top of what it was expected.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that's working out. Also, AMC theaters are getting an actual Blue Beetle popcorn bucket.
Do we have an AMC theater here?
Downtown.
Oh.
It's downtown.
Can we go to a theater and just buy a popcorn bucket? Or do we have to buy a ticket?
Well, that one's hard because it's in the middle of the mall, for one.
Ooh. Oh, we have to pay for parking.
You got to pay for parking.
If we want to walk, although it'd be kind of hot, we can park in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It'd be a walk.
Dude, if you've seen this bucket, like, I think I might share because I saw somebody do a
popcorn bucket.
There's 2 of them. There's the tin bucket, and then there's the actual, like, beetle bucket with the wings that come out, and then
I want that. That's fire.
That looks so cool, right?
Yeah. $25 though.
Yeah, it's wild.
That looks cool though. Well, is every AMC Cinemark? Because it says Cinemark exclusive item.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So there is. I think there's another AMC close to us, but it's in Bernie.
Oh, that's so far. Oh wait, no, it says downtown. It's our other IMAX theater.
Yeah.
But we could probably call them.
I think that we probably could call them to see if they have it.
Because I don't like. I've heard. Well, I think it was just for Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer had a bunch of like the 77 millimeter or whatever kept failing a lot.
Oh, really?
I heard. Yeah, and they're having like troubles. And it was at that theater. But I don't know if I've heard that might just be the case for the 77 millimeter period, like across everybody. But I don't really know. I saw it in IMAX. There was no issue, but it wasn't the 77 millimeter.
Yeah.
Or the 70 millimeter. I don't remember what it's called. But yeah, I kind of, man, that's kind of cool. I'd go buy it. I bought a $10 TMNT drink yesterday, but
Yeah,
it was just a basic one. So
I saw your picture with everything that you got at the theater.
yeah, well, that was when I saw the TMNT. This is when I went to see Oppenheimer. I just
Oh,
bought.
okay.
But at that theater, every worker there was wearing a Blue Beetle shirt.
That's cool.
That's kind of cool. I was like, all right, nice. But yeah, I kind of want to see. That's a pretty cool pop. But there's a different popcorn bucket. Like there's
There's
the
a
one that's like
tin
the
bucket.
scarab. The
Yeah,
scarab.
there's two. There's the tin bucket and then there's the scarab bucket. The
Oh.
tin bucket, I think we can get at the theater that we usually go to.
No. Well, this doesn't look like I don't know how to show it to you.
Share
It's
your
like a
screen and then I'll
backpack kind of thing. Sorry guys, I know this isn't great. Well, I don't know. Maybe it comes in the same way. I don't know. Because
we'll share it in the Discord if you're in the Discord.
Yeah. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough talk about that. Let us know if you're gonna go watch Blue Beetle because that comes out in 2 weeks. Next week. Next week, I think we'll be seeing it. Are we covering that on the podcast? Or are we delaying the podcast? It would be a late podcast.
It would be a late podcast. So if we want to do it, I can prep early for the video and everything.
So we will have to so next week, ladies and gentlemen, the podcast might come out on Friday, FYI, because we might review Blue Beetle. So because we're not watching it until like 3 or 4. So by the time we get out and record the podcast, it'll already be like 9 or 10. But by the time it finishes, I should say. So just expect next week's podcast to be on a Friday. So anyways, that is going to be it for this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Clay, what do you got going on this week, man?
So this week over at Star Wars Alliance, we reviewed a book called Star Wars Tarkin, a very political, grounded type of story within the Star Wars universe. It was in my tiers of Star Wars books. It kind of lands in the middle. It has a lot of information, but it was a nice change of pace compared to all of the action bits that you get in the Star Wars universe. So go listen to our review there. And that's basically it.
Noise. I will be doing 2 streams this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Going to try to finally beat Only Up. I almost beat it, and I fell all the way to the fucking ground because a dragon hit me. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, we'll be streaming Friday, Saturday. So definitely come by on those. But that is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome. News